This was never a fun kids' monster movie. It was a story about ancient evil, failed heroes, and why only children were left to stop the end of the world. Most people remember the Monster Squad as a goofy 80s adventure. Kids on bikes, classic monsters, a few jokes everyone quotes. But that version is a lie. Underneath the jokes is a story about genocide survivors, cosmic balance, monsters that cannot be killed, and a war that adults already lost 100 years ago. Tonight we are breaking down the full story of the Monster Squad from the very first moment to its quiet, heartbreaking ending, and exposing why this movie is far darker than it ever pretended to be. The movie does not begin with kids. It begins with failure. 100 years before the events of the film, legendary monster hunter Abraham Van Helsing makes a final attempt to destroy Count Dracula. Not with weapons, not with strength, but with something far more dangerous. An ancient amulet said to be made of concentrated goodness itself, once every century. When the forces of good and evil reach perfect balance, the amulet becomes vulnerable. At that exact moment, a spell can open a tear in the universe, a doorway to limbo, and cast evil out of this world forever. Van Helsing tries, and he fails. Dracula survives. The monsters remain, and Van Helsing's followers flee to America, hiding the amulet and hoping evil never finds it again. But evil is patient. Fast forward to small-town America. A group of preteen boys call themselves the Monster Squad. They are not heroes. They are not brave. They are fans. They obsess over old Universal monster movies. Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman. To them, monsters are stories, myths, comforting nightmares on a TV screen. Until the diary appears, Sean Crenshaw, the group's leader, is given the diary of Abraham Van Helsing himself. There is only one problem. It is written in German. That search for answers leads them to a man the town fears, the scary German guy. But the truth is darker. He is not scary. He is kind, and he is a concentration camp survivor, a man who lived through real monsters. And when he reads Van Helsing's diary, he understands something terrifying. The war is starting again. The diary reveals the truth. The amulet of goodness still exists. It is buried beneath an old house, protected by ancient wards that monsters cannot cross. But the next balance of good and evil is days away. If the monsters reach the amulet before midnight, Dracula will rule the world. And Dracula already knows. This is not a funny Dracula. This is a general. Dracula assembles an army with purpose. The mummy becomes his executioner. Silent, relentless, always advancing. The gill man becomes a predator, stalking victims in the dark. The wolfman becomes an immortal weapon, immune to everything except silver. And 3 schoolgirls are turned into vampire brides. Not companions, but tools. Then Dracula does something worse. He steals Frankenstein's monster like cargo from a military plane. Not to free him, but to use him. Frankenstein's monster refuses. He escapes into the forest, lost, confused, alone. And there he meets Phoebe, Sean's little sister, too young to join the Monster Squad, too young to understand fear. She does not scream. She does not run. She offers him kindness. And in that moment, the movie reveals its heart. The monster is not evil. He never was. He was only unwanted. Phoebe proves this to the boys. and Frankenstein makes his choice. He will not fight for Dracula. He will fight for them. There, the amulet that lies beneath a house now occupied by Dracula and his monsters. The monster squad breaks in, children trespassing into a war zone. They steal the amulet and barely escape with their lives. But Dracula retaliates. He destroys their clubhouse, not to hurt them physically, but to kill childhood itself. And now adults finally notice. Too late. There is a final problem. The spell must be read aloud by a virgin. The squad finds only one option, Patrick's older sister Lisa. But at the worst possible moment, the truth comes out. She is not a virgin. The spell fails. The monsters close in. Time runs out. And then they realize something horrifying. The only virgin left is Phoebe. The cathedral doors are locked. There is no safety, no protection. Just kids standing in the open, holding back monsters while a little girl tries to read an ancient spell. The wolfman falls. The gillman is destroyed. The mummy burns. Dracula arrives. Frankenstein's monster impales him on a wrought iron cross. Still, Dracula lives. Phoebe finishes the spell. The portal opens. Limbo pulls the monsters, screaming into nothingness. Dracula drags Sean with him. Sean stakes Dracula through the heart. And finally, Van Helsing himself appears, pulling his ancient enemy into the void. Frankenstein's monster is pulled toward Limbo, not dragged, not screaming, just slowly, helplessly, like gravity itself has decided he does not belong in this world. Phoebe grabs his hand. Her small fingers wrap around his massive, broken one. And for the first time in the entire movie, the unstoppable pull of the portal actually stops. She begs him to stay, not with a speech, not with logic, just with the raw fear of a child who does not understand why the only being who ever protected her has to leave. This is not a monster being banished. This is a friend being taken away. Frankenstein looks at her, and in that look is everything he has ever been denied. Kindness, acceptance, belonging. And that is why this moment hurts. Because he finally found what he was created to need. Only when it was already too late. He knows he cannot stay. If he does, the portal will not close. If he stays, the world does not survive. So he makes the most human choice in the entire film. He lets go. Before he disappears, Phoebe gives him her stuffed animal. A child's toy. Soft, innocent, meaningless to anyone else. But to him, it is the only thing he has ever owned that was given with love. He takes it, and then he is gone. The portal closes. The sky clears. The monsters are erased. The world is saved. At a cost no one else seems to notice. Because this movie was never really about monsters. It was about children seeing danger before adults ever do. It was about evil that never fully dies, only waits. And it was about innocence being the strongest weapon humanity has left. Then the army arrives, late, confused, unable to understand what just happened, because systems never see evil until after it has already been beaten. And in the final moment, Sean steps forward. Not as a kid, not as a fan of monster movies, but as someone who has faced real darkness and survived it. He hands over his business card. The Monster Squad. Not a joke, not a game. A title earned. And just like that, childhood ends. If you want the dark truth behind another childhood horror classic, watch the next video on screen. Now!